Welcome to a journey through the most haunted places in the United States. Today we're exploring locations where history left deep marks and where many visitors report unexplainable experiences. We begin with the hotel that inspired Stephen King to write The Shining. The Stanley Hotel was built in 1909 by Freeland Oscar Stanley, and since then has accumulated disturbing reports. Guests frequently report sounds of piano coming from the music hall, even when it's empty and locked. In room 217, where Stephen King himself stayed, lights turn on and off by themselves, and belongings are moved around. The most well-known story involves Elizabeth Wilson, a housekeeper who was seriously injured in 1911 during an explosion. They say she still packs guests' luggage and tidies up rooms during the night. Visitors describe feeling unseen hands touching their shoulders, and some wake up to find their suitcases unpacked or repacked differently than they left them. The ballroom on the 4th floor is another hotspot. Guests hear big band music and laughter from parties that ended decades ago. This historic ship, transformed into a floating hotel, carries decades of history. During World War II, the Queen Mary transported thousands of soldiers and tragically, in 1942, accidentally collided with one of its escort ships, resulting in hundreds of casualties. The ship's pool is one of the most active spots. Visitors report seeing 2 women in vintage swimsuits, plus wet children leaving footprints across the deck. In the engine room, where a 19-year-old sailor had a fatal accident in the 60s, many report feeling a presence and hearing unexplained metallic banging. Door number 13 in the engine room is where the young man was crushed, and people describe an overwhelming sense of panic and difficulty breathing in that exact spot. Security guards refuse to patrol certain areas alone after midnight. Considered one of America's most haunted homes, the Myrtles Plantation was built in 1796. The most famous story involves Chloe, an enslaved woman who was punished for eavesdropping on private conversations. According to historical accounts, in a desperate act, she caused a tragedy involving family members. Visitors frequently photograph a female figure wearing a green turban on the verandas. The mirror in the entrance hall is particularly intriguing. They say it contains handprints that cannot be cleaned, no matter how many times they try. Guests report waking up to someone touching their hair, or feeling the weight of something sitting on the edge of the bed. The chandelier swings on its own, and children's laughter echoes through empty hallways. Some visitors claim to see a young girl bouncing on beds in unoccupied rooms. This luxurious beachfront resort hides a melancholic story. In 1892, a young woman named Kate Morgan arrived at the hotel expecting to meet someone who never showed up. 5 days later, she was found lifeless on the exterior staircase. Since then, room 3327, where she stayed, has become famous for unexplainable phenomena. Guests report curtains moving without wind, flickering lights, temperatures that drop suddenly, and the sensation of a female presence. Some hotel staff avoid working on that floor during the night. People staying in the room describe the scent of perfume, objects that move from where they were placed, and the feeling of someone sitting on the bed. Kate's presence seems most active around Thanksgiving, near the anniversary of her tragic end. Tonight, we venture into the shadows of American history, exploring places where the past is not just remembered, but relived. These are locations stained by tragedy and sorrow, where restless spirits are said to linger, forever bound to the scenes of their turmoil. From grand mansions built on cursed land to humble homes marked by unspeakable crimes, these are not just buildings, but gateways to the unknown. We will journey through corridors where ghostly footsteps echo, Enter rooms where disembodied voices whisper and uncover the dark stories that refuse to be buried. These are tales of love, loss, betrayal, and madness, and the entities they left behind. Prepare yourself as we count down some of the most haunted places in America. Our first stop takes us to San Diego, California, to a home so active that its paranormal reputation has been officially recognized by the United States government. The Whaley house stands as a monument to a family's enduring sorrow. Built in 1857 by Thomas Whaley, the house was erected on a piece of land with a grim history. It was the former site of public executions. This ominous foundation seemed to set the stage for the tragedies that would unfold within its walls. The Whaley family endured unimaginable grief, losing a baby daughter, another daughter who died under tragic circumstances at just 22, and a son who also passed away prematurely. The weight of this sorrow seems to have permanently imprinted itself on the property. Visitors and staff frequently report encounters with the Whaley family themselves. The distinct, aromatic scent of a cigar often materializes out of thin air, a signature presence attributed to the patriarch, Thomas Whaley, who enjoyed smoking them in life. His wife, Anna, is often seen as a graceful, yet somber, apparition in the living room, and many have heard the unmistakable sound of her long skirts rustling through the corridors, even when no one is there. Perhaps the most chilling phenomenon is the sound of heavy, plodding footsteps heard on the upper floor. These are believed to belong to James Robinson, a man known as Yankee Jim, who was hanged on the property before the house was even built. The archway of the house now stands precisely where his gallows once were. And for those with a keen eye, the fleeting image of a small, spotted dog has been seen darting through the rooms, the spectral form of the Whaley family's beloved pet, still roaming its home over a century later. Next, we travel to the quiet, rural town of Villisca, Iowa, to a modest white house that conceals one of the most brutal and baffling crimes in American history. This is the Villisca Axe Murder House. On the morning of June 10, 1912, a horrific discovery was made. 8 people, the entire Moore family of 6, and 2 young girls, Lena and Ina Stillinger, who were overnight guests, had been bludgeoned to death in their beds with an axe. The sheer brutality of the act shocked the nation, and despite numerous suspects and a lengthy investigation, the killer was never identified. The crime remains unsolved to this day, leaving a permanent scar on the community and a palpable sense of unease within the house itself. Today, the house is preserved as it was in 1912, a time capsule of a terrible tragedy. For those brave enough, it's possible to spend the night, but few leave unshaken. Reports from overnight guests and paranormal investigators are profoundly disturbing. The disembodied voices of children are frequently heard, sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. The heavy thud of footsteps is often reported from the attic, a space that is empty and inaccessible. Doors creak open and slam shut on their own, and electronic equipment, from cameras to audio recorders, mysteriously fails. Many visitors describe an oppressive, heavy atmosphere, particularly in the children's bedroom upstairs. In this room, where the young Moore children and their 2 friends met their end, small, unexplained indentations like footprints have been found in the dust. The sheer terror is often too much. Many people have fled the house in the middle of the night, overwhelmed by fear and a sense of being unwelcome. Investigators have captured chilling electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs, with recordings of voices clearly saying "leave" and the faint cries of children calling for their mother. Our journey now leads us to St. Louis, Missouri, and a magnificent mansion that stands as a testament to a family dynasty's tragic downfall. The Lemp Mansion was the home of the Lemp family, who built a vast and successful brewing empire in the 19th century. But their immense fortune seemed to come with a terrible price, a curse of profound sorrow and suicide. The tragedies began in 1904 when William Lemp Sr., devastated by the loss of his favorite son Frederick, took his own life inside the mansion. It was a dark omen of what was to come. Over the next few decades, the curse would claim 3 more family members, all of whom died by their own hand within the same opulent walls. The weight of this accumulated despair has saturated the mansion, turning it into a hotbed of paranormal activity. Now operating as a restaurant and inn, the Lemp Mansion offers guests a chance to dine and sleep among its resident spirits. Staff and visitors alike have countless stories of the unexplainable. A somber, bearded figure, believed to be William Lemp Sr., is often seen in his old office. At the bar, glasses have been known to lift off the shelves and move on their own. The haunting melody of a piano often drifts from rooms that are confirmed to be empty. The mansion's basement, which once provided access to the network of caves used for lagering beer, is said to be particularly active. Many employees refuse to go down there alone, overcome by a feeling of dread. The most sought-after and feared room is the Lavender Suite, the former bedroom of Charles Lemp, one of the sons who died in the house. Guests who dare to sleep there report waking up to the distinct sensation of someone sitting on the edge of their bed, and some have even heard a man's voice speaking in German, echoing the family's heritage. From Missouri, we travel east to Fall River, Massachusetts, to a home synonymous with one of America's most infamous and sensationalized murder trials, the Lizzie Borden house. On a sweltering August day in 1892, Andrew and Abby Borden were found brutally murdered in their home, both victims of a frenzied axe attack. The prime suspect was Andrew's youngest daughter, Lizzie. The ensuing trial became a media spectacle, and though Lizzie was ultimately acquitted, public opinion remained sharply divided. The cloud of suspicion followed her for the rest of her life, and the question of who done it has never been definitively answered. The house itself seems to hold the violent energy of that day, forever replaying the gruesome events for those sensitive enough to perceive it. Now a museum and a bed and breakfast, the house allows the public to step directly into the crime scene. The experience is often more than what guests bargain for. Those who spend the night in the room where Abby Borden was murdered frequently report waking up with a terrifying sensation of being suffocated, or feeling a heavy, oppressive presence pressing down on them. In the downstairs sitting room, on the very sofa where Andrew Borden took his last breath, some visitors have seen a clear impression form on the cushions, as if an invisible body is lying there. Throughout the house, lights flicker and turn on by themselves, and the sound of disembodied footsteps echoes through the empty halls. A woman's mournful crying is often heard from the second floor. It's not uncommon for visitors to capture strange mists and orbs in their photographs. The activity can become so intense that guests have checked out in the middle of the night, claiming they felt unseen hands trying to push them down the stairs, or most terrifyingly the distinct feeling of an axe being raised above them as they tried to sleep. Our final destination is a sprawling, bizarre mansion in San Jose, California, a testament to one woman's grief, guilt, and crippling fear of the supernatural. This is the Winchester Mystery House. Sarah Winchester was the heiress to the massive fortune of the Winchester Repeating Arms Company. After the deaths of her infant daughter and her husband, a devastated Sarah sought guidance from a spiritual medium. The medium told her that she was being haunted by the spirits of every person ever killed by a Winchester rifle. The only way to appease these vengeful ghosts, she was told, was to move west and continuously build a house for them. As long as construction never ceased, she would be safe. Sarah took this advice to heart, and for the next 38 years, from 1886 until her death in 1922, the sound of hammers and saws never stopped, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The result is a bewildering and illogical architectural marvel. The mansion contains 160 rooms, filled with oddities designed to confuse the spirits. Staircases that lead directly into the ceiling, doors that open onto solid walls or dangerous drops to the ground below, and windows built into the floors. Every night at midnight, Sarah would retreat to a special room known as the Blue Room to conduct seances, seeking guidance from the spirit world on the next phase of construction. Today, visitors to this labyrinthine estate report a wide range of paranormal phenomena. Disembodied whispers are heard in the winding hallways. People feel the chilling touch of an unseen hand on their shoulder, and shadowy figures are seen darting through the maze-like corridors. The ghostly sound of construction often echoes through the empty house, as if a phantom crew is still hard at work, carrying out Sarah's final orders. Cold spots are common, as is the overwhelming sensation of being watched. Perhaps strangest of all is the distinct smell of chicken soup, said to be Sarah's favorite meal, which mysteriously wafts through rooms that have been sealed for decades. On rare occasions, guests and guides have even photographed the apparition of a small woman in Victorian dress, believed to be Sarah Winchester herself, still wandering the endless lonely halls of the house she built to be her sanctuary and her prison. From the brutal confines of revolutionary prisons to the blood-soaked fields of civil war, America's landscape is dotted with places where history's darkest moments have left an indelible and often spectral scar. These are not just old buildings or empty fields. They are silent witnesses to immense suffering, tragedy, and injustice. Within their walls and across their grounds, echoes of the past refuse to fade, manifesting as chilling whispers, fleeting shadows, and encounters that defy rational explanation. Today, we journey into the heart of this darkness, exploring some of the most haunted locations in the United States, places where the veil between our world and the next is terrifyingly thin. These are the stories of the souls who, for reasons we may never fully understand, have never left. Our first stop takes us to the imposing stone walls of Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Operating from 1829 to 1971, this groundbreaking prison was designed not just to confine, but to inspire penitence through a radical system of total isolation. Inmates, including some of America's most infamous criminals like Al Capone, were forced to spend 23 hours a day in complete solitude. This crushing loneliness within tiny, oppressive cells was intended to make them reflect on their crimes, but it often drove them to the brink of madness instead. The sheer weight of human suffering seems to have seeped into the very structure of the prison. Today, guards and visitors frequently report disembodied screams echoing from long empty cell blocks, shadowy figures darting through decaying corridors, and gaunt faces peering out from behind rusty cell bars. The cell that once held Al Capone has become a focal point for paranormal claims. Some visitors report hearing phantom music or hushed conversations, while others have glimpsed a blurred, indistinct figure within the restored room. However, the most disturbing area is arguably the isolation block, grimly known as the Hole. This was a place of ultimate punishment, a pitch-black underground cell where unruly prisoners were left to languish. Those who venture into it today often describe a crushing tightness in their chest and an overwhelming, unexplainable sense of panic. Even more unsettling are the accounts from former guards, who spoke of seeing the apparitions of inmates who had hanged themselves in their cells, only to rush over and find the cells completely empty. From the central guard tower, which offers a panoramic view of the yards, staff have reported seeing spectral figures walking the abandoned grounds long after the prison has closed for the night, forever pacing their final prison. Next, we travel to the Ozark Mountains and the elegant facade of the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Built in 1886, this grand hotel harbors a dual dark history that has cemented its reputation as America's most haunted hotel. Its first tragedy occurred when it served as a women's college, where a young student is said to have suffered a fatal fall. But the hotel's most sinister chapter began in the 1930s when it was purchased by a charlatan named Norman Baker. He transformed the luxury resort into a fraudulent cancer hospital, preying on desperate patients with promises of a miracle cure. In reality, his treatments were useless, and countless people suffered and died under his care, their bodies stored in a makeshift morgue in the basement. The energy in the basement, where Baker conducted his horrific experiments, is described as intensely disturbing. Visitors report a palpable heaviness in the air, sudden waves of nausea, and have even claimed to see visions of ghostly patients in hospital gowns wandering the halls. A phantom nurse is one of the most frequently cited apparitions, often seen pushing an empty medical gurney down a corridor before vanishing. Room 218, reputedly the room where the young student met her tragic end, is known for its unsettling activity. Guests have woken in the middle of the night with the unnerving feeling of being watched by someone sitting in the corner chair. Meanwhile, room 419 is said to be haunted by a playful but mischievous spirit named Michael, who reportedly knocks on the walls and moves guests' belongings. The old morgue, where Baker once callously stacked the bodies of his victims, often provokes the most extreme reactions, with people reporting severe difficulty breathing and an overwhelming, crushing sadness. Our journey continues to the hallowed grounds of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. In the scorching heat of July 1863, this small town became the site of the American Civil War's bloodiest battle. Over 3 brutal days, more than 50,000 soldiers became casualties, their hopes and lives extinguished on fields and hillsides that now bear names like Devil's Den and Little Round Top. The sheer scale of the slaughter has left an undeniable psychic scar on the landscape, making the battlefield and the surrounding town one of the country's most active paranormal hotspots. Visitors and investigators alike report hearing the phantom sounds of war, the thunder of cannons, and the sharp crack of musket fire, erupting from quiet fields where no reenactments are taking place. Photographs taken across the battlefield often reveal more than the photographer intended, capturing the ghostly figures of soldiers in period uniforms who were not there a moment before and vanished just as quickly. At a place known as the Triangular Field, the air can suddenly become thick with the pungent smell of gunpowder and sulfur, accompanied by the disembodied screams of men in agony. Little Round Top, the site of a ferocious and pivotal fight, is known for a different kind of encounter. Many people feel the distinct touch of an invisible hand on their shoulder, as if a long-gone soldier is trying to get their attention. The Jenny Wade house, home to the only civilian killed during the battle, is intensely active. Doors are known to slam shut on their own. A woman's voice is heard calling out names, and a profound sense of sadness permeates every room. At Devil's Den, a maze of large boulders used for cover by sharpshooters, cameras and other electronic devices frequently malfunction, and apparitions of Confederate soldiers have been seen hiding among the rocks, forever replaying their final moments. From a battlefield of war, we move to a battlefield against disease, Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. This colossal institution operated from 1910 to 1961, a period when tuberculosis, the White Plague, was ravaging the nation. With no known cure, treatments were often experimental and brutal, and the hospital saw an immense amount of death, with some estimates claiming as many as 6,000 people perished within its walls. To handle the sheer volume of fatalities without demoralizing the living patients, a 500-foot underground tunnel was constructed. This death tunnel, or body chute, was used to transport the deceased discreetly from the hospital to the bottom of the hill. Today, it is considered one of the most actively haunted locations on the property. Explorers who venture into the tunnel report being followed by creeping shadows, hearing disembodied voices begging for help, and seeing full-bodied apparitions of gaunt patients, still clad in their hospital gowns. On the 5th floor, room 502 holds a particularly tragic tale. It is said that a nurse, despondent after discovering she had contracted tuberculosis, took her own life in this room. Visitors who enter it often experience a sudden, unexplainable sense of dread and panic, and some have reported being physically pushed by an unseen force. The spirits of the many children who did not survive their treatment are also said to remain. Their laughter and playful shouts are heard echoing in the old recreation areas, and their spectral balls have been seen rolling down empty corridors on their own. The 4th floor, which housed the sickest and most contagious patients, is so paranormally active that even the most seasoned investigators are hesitant to explore it alone, fearing what they might encounter in the oppressive darkness. Our final destination is a city whose name is synonymous with paranoia and injustice: Salem, Massachusetts. The infamous witch trials of 1692 were a dark chapter of collective hysteria that led to the execution of 19 innocent people. The entire city seems to be impregnated with the residual energy of this tragedy. The old Burying Point Cemetery, the final resting place of several of the judges who presided over the trials, is a site of bizarre phenomena. Visitors have reported strange, floating lights moving between the ancient tombstones, heard disembodied voices whispering accusations in the wind, and seen fleeting apparitions of figures dressed in Puritan clothing among the graves. The actual site of the hangings, Proctor's Ledge, was only definitively identified in 2016. Those who stand there today often describe an oppressive sensation of profound injustice and sorrow that hangs heavy in the air. Paranormal activity is reported in numerous historic houses throughout the city. Objects are said to move on their own. The sound of heavy footsteps is heard on empty upper floors, and phantom conversations in archaic English are sometimes overheard. The Witch House, the former home of Judge Jonathan Corwin, one of the magistrates who sent the accused to their deaths, emanates a particularly heavy and somber feeling. Inside its examination room, some visitors have claimed to witness the spectral reenactment of the trials, seeing the ghostly figures of the accused pleading for their lives before the unyielding court. The energy in Salem is unique, a complex and haunting mixture of historical tragedy, collective regret, and the powerful memories of those who refuse to let their stories be forgotten. These places carry more than just history. They carry the profound weight of emotion, memory, and for many, compelling evidence that some presences remain irrevocably tied to the locations of their greatest sorrow. Whether you approach these stories as a skeptic or a firm believer, these locations offer a chilling and fascinating window into America's past and its most disturbing chapters. Many of them now offer tours and even overnight stays for the bravest of souls, inviting you to experience the phenomena for yourself. The question that lingers in the silence of these haunted halls is a simple one. Are they just old buildings filled with tragic stories? Or does something truly remain in these corridors and rooms, unable or unwilling to move on? One thing is certain: the thousands of witnesses who have shared their terrifying experiences can't all be mistaken about what they have seen, heard, and felt in these haunted halls of history.